Hello everybody and welcome to our next unit, Chapter 12, Nucleic Acids. So we've left cell reproduction, mitosis and meiosis. Now we've reached our unit on nucleic acids. It will be a difficult unit and a little bit boring. Now what are nucleic acids? Those are things like DNA. Hopefully you've heard of DNA. That's deoxyribonucleic acid. That's the molecule that stores your genetic information. It's basically what makes you who you are. If you have brown hair, blonde hair, whatever, DNA is what gives you those traits. And also later on in this unit, we're going to go over its little buddy, its little helper, ribonucleic acid, or RNA. Alright, so today's daily objectives. And for the record, for me, today is Monday, March 11th, 2019. It's 6:14 p.m. and I'm making this new ed puzzle for you guys. You'll be seeing it on March the 12th. Anyways, so today on March the 12th, for you guys, when you leave, you should be able to describe the structure of DNA molecules. What does a DNA molecule look like? What are they made out of? You should also be able to describe, these are the building blocks of DNA. They're called DNA nucleotides. So DNA molecules are made from nucleotides. You should be able to describe what a DNA molecule looks like and what a DNA nucleotide looks like. And you should be able to explain the extremely simple concept of the base pairing rules. I think you'll find that very, very easy. Alright, so what is DNA? The three letters DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. And it's a pretty good reason why it has that name. It contains the 5-carbon sugar called deoxyribose. And it is a nucleic acid. It is found in the nucleus. It's a nucleic acid. That's why it has the name deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. Now, it is a molecule that contains your genetic information. So basically everything which makes you who you are, your hair color, your eye color, if you have dimples, if you have 2 eyebrows, or do you have a unibrow, do you have a hitchhiker thumb, everything that makes you who you are, it's all contained in your DNA molecules, which are within your nucleus in all of your cells. So like I said, basically DNA contains the code that gives you all of your unique traits. So none of us, unless you're an identical twin, none of us have the same exact DNA. That's why we all have a little bit different hair color, eye color. Some people have dimples, some people don't. Some people have 2 eyebrows, some people have 1 massive unibrow. Some people have 6 fingers. Most people have 5. But all of that is located within your DNA. Now your DNA contains things called genes. Hopefully you've heard of genes before. Genes are segments of DNA which code to make a specific protein. So there's thousands and thousands of genes on your DNA. They all code to make a specific protein. And it is these specific proteins that give you all of your unique individual traits that make you who you are. Alright, so the shape of DNA was discovered in 1953 by 2 guys called James Watson and Francis Crick. You won't need to know that. But the shape that they came up with, which looks like this, it looks like a ladder that's been twisted around, and that's called a double helix. So the shape of DNA looks like a ladder like this that's been twisted around, and that's called a double helix. Now the sides of the ladder are held together by what's called a sugar-phosphate backbone. So that's the sides here. So if this is a ladder, this is where you'd put your hands. And that has a sugar, which is deoxyribose, and then a phosphate, and then a sugar, and then a phosphate, and then another sugar, another phosphate. Same thing on the other side. Phosphate, and a sugar, and a phosphate, and a sugar. So no matter what you are, the backbone of your DNA is always the same. You could be a person, a bear, a fish, a bacteria. The backbone's always the same. It is the middle of the ladder that contains the part of your DNA which is unique to just you. There's not another person on Earth that has the same nitrogen bases. Now, there's only 4 nitrogen bases in DNA, but it's the order or the sequence of your nitrogen bases which makes you who you are. So right here you can see the nitrogen base thymine bonded to adenine. And here you see a guanine or G bonded to cytosine. Now, everybody has a unique sequence of bases in their DNA. And this is where the code to make you who you are is stored. It's in those nitrogen bases in your DNA. And last thing you want to know, those nitrogen bases are bonded together. They're held together by what's called weak hydrogen bonds. So between each of these nitrogen bases, between this A and the T over here, there's a weak hydrogen bond. Between the C and the G, a weak hydrogen bond. Between the G and the C, a weak so there's hydrogen bonds that are bonding all those nitrogen bases together. Alright, so DNA is made up of what's called nucleotides. Hopefully you remember back from biochemistry, carbohydrates are made of sugars. Lipids are made of fatty acids and glycerol. Carbohydrates are made of sugars. And nucleic acids are made from the monomers, nucleotides. And there's 3 parts to make up a nucleotide. The first is a phosphate group. Phosphate. And you can see that right over there. There's the phosphate, PO4, a phosphorus atom bonded with 4 oxygen atoms. The next part of the nucleotide is a 5-carbon sugar. It's a sugar, and for DNA, it's the exact sugar called deoxyribose. So the sugar in DNA is deoxyribose, and there it is. There's the 5-carbon sugar bonded to the phosphate group. Now, the most important part, the third part of a nucleotide, is one of 4 different nitrogen or nitrogenous bases. And you can see that right there. So those are the 3 parts of a nucleotide. A phosphate, which is bonded to a 5-carbon sugar, which is bonded to a nitrogen or nitrogenous base. Now for life on Earth, there's only 4 types of nitrogen bases in all the life on Earth. No matter what you are, bacteria, a whale, a bear, doesn't matter. There's only 4 different types of bases, and that is adenine, we usually just say A, thymine or T, cytosine or C, and guanine or G. That's all there is for nitrogen bases in DNA. All living things on Earth are based on those 4 nitrogen bases. Now I want you to look at this DNA molecule over here to the right. Now you can see DNA here is a nucleotide. There's the phosphate, the deoxyribose sugar, and there's the nitrogen base thymine. Here is another nucleotide. The phosphate bonded to another deoxyribose sugar, and this time bonded to the nitrogen base guanine. So this is how you can see that DNA is made up of millions and millions of nucleotides. And you can also see it's double-sided because you can see there's that side and there's also another nucleotide here on the other side. That's adenine. Here's cytosine bonded to a deoxyribose sugar and a phosphate. So that's what DNA is made of. They're made of these guys, these nucleotides. And the last slide of this little Ed puzzle, the base pairing rules. Nitrogen bases have a specific shape, so they're only going to bond with one other base. Now, this is very, very important that you write this down, and it's really, really easy. The nitrogen base adenine always bonds with the base thymine. So A always bonds with T, and of course T always bonds with A. Now, on the other hand, cytosine, the nitrogen base, always bonds with guanine, or C always bonds with G, or G always bonds with C. And remember, those bonds that bond them together are weak hydrogen bonds. So, for example, if this was a short DNA molecule, let's say one side of it is A, C, G, C, T, the other side of it would be A bonds with T, C bonds with G, G bonds with C, C bonds with G, and T bonds with A. That would be a very small segment of DNA, but that's according to the base pairing rules because T always bonds with A and C always bonds with G. Okay, now a little quiz time. Let's see if you remember some of this stuff or if you took down some notes, and let's see how you do with these questions.